Today on The Ascent Health, we're talking about something most women were never taught: how your menstrual cycle actually works and how it affects your energy, mood, workouts, and stress. I'm joined by functional hormone specialist Anne McLeary, and we break down why so many women struggle with heavy periods, PMS, or burnout, and how stress and modern life throw hormones off, and how to work with your cycle instead of pushing through it. If this conversation resonates with you, Anne will be diving much deeper into this topic at an in-person workshop at Ascent Health and Performance on February 3rd, focused on understanding your cycle and supporting hormones naturally. We'll share the details at the end of the episode. Let's dive in.
Hey.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to On The Ascent Health. I am here today with Anne McLeary. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a functional hormone specialist. So I help women in their premenopausal time naturally balance their hormones. So I got into this because, like most people, they have health issues. They're trying to fix it and they don't know what to do. So just for myself, I had really heavy periods, like horribly heavy periods, painful periods, and I went on birth control, the standard thing that most Americans do.
Right.
I was on it for a few years. And then I realized that this wasn't really doing much for me. There was times where I was bleeding for like 6 weeks at a
Oh
time,
my God.
which is not
Not
normal,
normal, not healthy.
not great. And so I didn't know what it was doing, what was going on, but I just knew I had to get off of it. So I did. Doctors basically just told me good luck. So I was like, okay. So I found some books, found some resources, and I started learning about the menstrual cycle and that there is so much more that women go through that we are just not taught, but every single woman goes through it.
Right.
So I started just like balancing my hormones naturally and I started feeling really good. And then fast forward a few years, because I'm actually originally a civil engineer.
Okay.
So
Got
like
it.
180. I just kept on talking to people and their health goals and what they were going through, and every single person was experiencing something, whether that was PMS, PCOS, acne,
Mhm.
mood swings, heavy periods, cramps. Every single person had something. So I was like, wow, there is a need for help. And all that we're really given when you just go to a doctor is either medication or birth control.
Right.
So I became certified as a functional hormone specialist. And then now I have a program and I teach them how to balance their hormones without any other medications or birth control.
So why are hormones that off balance? Like, why is it that this is afflicting everyone and you were bleeding for 6 weeks? I guess that might be birth control related, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, why is it so bad?
So the biggest thing is stress. To like
We have
kind
a
of
lot of that.
to
Yeah.
like kind of dive into it. But the biggest thing is stress as you think about it is finances, family, work drama, all these things that we think are stress. But what it really is that, yes, but also all these other things in our life, like not eating properly, dysregulated blood sugar, toxins in our life, like endocrine disruptors, not sleeping properly. And then there's so many other things, but stress is not just like this financial burden. It's all of these environmental factors. And so what it does
Or like
is,
mental stress and like physiological stress.
yes, it's adding stress to your body. And so to kind of get into a little bit of the science, when we think about our menstrual cycle, we just think about we're on our period, right? And then nothing else happens. And there's just like this time and space that goes by, and then we get our period again. But what actually is going on is so much. We go through these 4 phases, and the main event is ovulation. And that's what we want to be prioritizing is ovulation. Our body is really stressed. It suppresses ovulation. So our body doesn't know the difference between toxins and work drama and friends or social life being really busy versus a bear attacking us.
Right.
Because innately our body is like, wow, it's under danger. We got to preserve ourselves. We got to put things on pause. So we're going to stop ovulation and we're going to pause everything. So that's kind of like in a nutshell, a lot of hormonal imbalances is because of all these environmental factors
So what percent of women are actually like not ovulating and not are having that?
versus like
Okay.
having your period and
Yeah.
not
Right.
like having hormonal imbalances.
Right. For somebody who, let's say somebody's like not menstruating
Mhm.
because they're so stressed. That's something that happens to me. I'll like, if I'm in a period of stress, I
Mhm.
won't have periods. It's great, but not great for my
Yeah.
body, right?
Right.
Versus somebody who's stressed, but then they're still like bleeding really heavily
Mm.
every month. Why do some people like their body still like, no, we can.
Yeah. So what happens is your ovulation is still happening, but there's different levels of quality that's happening. So we want to optimize our ovulation. We don't want it to be fully suppressed. But what happens is we can be ovulating, but it's not great. So what happens is our follicle releases an egg, and this follicle turns into what's called a corpus luteum, and that produces progesterone. The progesterone produced is based off the quality of this follicle.
Okay.
And so if that follicle doesn't develop properly because of environmental situations, then you're not going to produce enough progesterone, a very, very important hormone. And you want to be prioritizing ovulation, whether or not you're trying to conceive.
Yeah.
So along with that, there's a very delicate dance of progesterone and estrogen that needs to happen. And with a lot of environmental toxins, such as artificial fragrance is a big one, that can increase estrogen. And we don't want it to get higher than progesterone.
Yeah.
I
That's
know this is,
estrogen dominance, right? Is that the
yes,
phrase they use?
yes.
Okay.
Estrogen dominance is when estrogen gets higher because you have so much of this artificial estrogen in your body. So that's what's going to cause the heavy periods, the really painful periods, PMS symptoms,
Mhm.
which is we're told are totally normal. They're
Right.
not.
In our society, we are
Right.
told that.
So that's like a big cause is all of these environmental toxins. I keep going back to that, but it's causing these estrogen dominant situations, which is causing these hormonal fluctuations that we don't want.
All right. Where do we go from here? Do we go into,
We can talk about cycle syncing.
yeah, cycle syncing?
Yeah.
Go ahead and explain what that is.
Okay. So I think that this is so cool. And I wish every single woman was just taught this when they were a preteen. So to start off, men's hormones reset every 24 hours, whereas women's hormones reset every 28 days. So men are really good at waking up, repeating, doing the same thing, eating the same foods, the same workout regimen, and they thrive on that. Whereas women, we change every 28 days or however long your cycle length is.
Right.
And so we are not the same every single day. We go through these hormonal fluctuations where there's times where our energy is lower, there's times when our energy is higher, we're a little bit more susceptible to stress,
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. So what cycle syncing is adapting pretty much all aspects of your life to the 4 phases of your cycle. So this means your workouts, your nutrition, your social life, your sleep even, how much you eat can
Mm-hmm.
change. All of these different things change and you should adapt to the 4 phases. So it sounds complicated, but it's not.
Right.
The 4 phases, the way I like to explain it to make it as easy as possible is starting off your menstrual phase. Think about this as your winter. So in literal
We're
nature,
here. Yeah.
think of winter right now. The grass isn't green. The trees are not producing leaves. There's no flowers blooming. There's nothing growing.
It's barren.
Everything is under hibernation. Things are not being produced. So in your menstrual cycle, to be expected to go, keep on going, pushing hard is unrealistic because we are in this winter time. Our hormones are literally the lowest. So that reflects with our energy.
Mhm.
Our energy is also the lowest. And so once you're done bleeding, you go into your follicular phase, and that is your springtime. So when you think about spring, things are slowly growing. So your energy is slowly rising. So this is where estrogen starts to rise, and so does your energy. So you don't want to come like running out of the gates, pushing really hard as soon as your menstrual cycle ends or as soon as your bleed ends. And this is your follicular phase. As soon as your hormones peak, that triggers ovulation, which is your ovulatory
Mhm.
phase. It's the shortest phase.
Kind of like the Alaska summers.
Yes, it just happens really quick, but it's like amazing. So what's really cool about this is when you're ovulating, you want to look your best because you're trying to reproduce, right?
Yeah.
So your facial structure actually shifts.
I gotta take pictures. Have you done
Yeah.
pictures of like the different
No, I
times? Okay.
haven't.
Like we
No.
should see if it's, yeah, how
I
true it
haven't.
is.
But you'll feel that you just naturally feel more confident during that time.
Mhm.
So I know like you work out a lot, you could be during that time.
Right. I'm coming out of like years of kids
Yeah, okay.
breastfeeding babies. So that's why I'm here to learn this.
Like push your body the hardest is because it can withstand the more
Okay.
intense times.
So that's when you can put TARDIS. Okay.
Yeah. And so with that, your energy is the highest. You feel the most social. You want to go hang out with friends during this time. It's your summer.
What, like 3 days a month? That's
Yeah.
when you're gonna lift heavy, hang out, do all the things. Okay.
That's what it seems like, but
Yeah.
your energy, it's a slow up and down.
Yeah.
It's not that you only have this 3-day window to
Perfect.
hang out with
Yeah.
friends. But the biggest thing that I always warn my clients about is during your ovulatory phase, you feel so good that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to schedule all these plans with people.
That makes sense.
And then all of a sudden you have that date night or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and you're on your period and you do not want to go out or socialize.
Right.
So being mindful when you're scheduling things, whether that's social plans, work plans, whatever it is, being mindful of where you're at in your cycle. But lastly, going into your luteal phase, which is after you've ovulated, this is your fall. This is your longest phase. So a lot of people think about this time as the worst because this is when you do have the PMS symptoms, or a lot of people do experience that. So this is why it's really important to prioritize ovulation and whatnot. But anyways, you're preparing for hibernation during this time. So you're going to start to slow down. And our body is really, really intelligent. So what happens is we ovulate and our body's like, hey, do we get pregnant or not? So we're going to start preparing like nesting. Oh, so you're probably going to be a little bit more drawn to organizing tasks
Oh,
and
interesting.
things like
Okay.
that. Or in
That's when you
business.
clean the house
Yes.
and okay.
And you're just like, I just need to deep clean everything because our body's like, are we nesting? Are we not? And then also you might be a little bit more susceptible to stress. So you might feel that your workload last week felt really great and doable, but now all of a sudden it's very intense. And it's because your body doesn't know if a child's on the way. So it's just being a little bit more adaptable to potential predators or
Yeah.
things in the wild that could be
So
harmful.
that's why people can be more emotional during the
Mhm.
period too.
Also because
That's
so
the
many
thing.
women have hormonal imbalances during that time that we
Right.
want to work on. But yeah, we are a little bit more susceptible to stress, which is really cool.
Got it. Okay. And
Yeah.
so how do you prioritize? What are you doing? You can either go around with food or tell me what you do kind of each cycle and what supports it.
Mhm. Okay, so starting with menstrual phase, again, thinking about winter, so specifically talking about food,
Yeah.
think about winter foods. So during this time, your body, you're naturally going to crave things like soups, warming foods. So soups, stews, really nutrient dense, rich foods. Going into
Is your
follicular.
body temperature colder during that? Do you feel colder? And that's why we want the foods,
So
because our temperature change, don't they?
our temperature does change, and when you start your period, it actually does come back down.
Okay.
It's not any colder than it is in your follicular phase, but your body naturally wants to have warming foods to
Mhm.
support your uterus, excuse me, shedding.
Yeah.
Um, so going into your springtime or your follicular phase, think about spring foods. So this is like sauteed foods, a little bit lighter, but also prioritizing nutrient dense foods.
Mhm.
Summertime, we're probably going to crave things more like smoothies, salads, things that are just lighter and not as
So
heavy.
if you're working out really hard, that's what
Well,
I'm like. I feel like then I want a big burger, but
yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you're not going to be craving like a big thick stew as much.
okay, got
And there's
it.
nothing wrong with eating like if you're having a smoothie during your menstrual cycle or
Right.
vice
Yeah.
versa, it's going to be totally fine. But this is just to only optimize things. And a lot of times, if you like really start to pay close attention, you'll realize that you're naturally drawn towards those things, which is really
Right.
cool.
Okay.
And then fall is still kind of like preparing for hibernation. So more like those casserole type dishes. Foods like sweet potato are really good. And during your luteal phase, you can actually burn up to 200 more calories a day. And it's because our body is potentially preparing for pregnancy. So you want more calories. Progesterone is increasing your metabolism during that time. So if you feel hungry, listen to it and eat that food.
Got it.
Yeah.
Just so when you do it, it's not like your menstrual cycle is controlling your life. It's like you're
Right.
allowing, how would you describe it? Like, how is the control and right? Otherwise, it's like, am I scheduling my life around my period? And
Yeah.
no, I shouldn't schedule that because I'll probably, be PMSing that we're not PMSing, but my, energy will be decreasing.
I would say the biggest thing is just to start to understand where you're at because it feels really validating. So when you're doing the same thing every day and then all of a sudden what you were doing a week ago feels really overwhelming, a lot of times women just spiral into the thought of I'm not good enough, what's going on, but really your body is just changing. So I would say why it's important to know and understand is to give yourself grace.
Got it. Okay.
And so if you see that, your husband is doing the really extreme workout that day and you're just not really up for it, you're feeling tired and you want to rest, listen to your body. There's a reason why you feel that way. So I would say try to plan out as much as you can. And it's because it's going to allow you to feel better during those times.
Mhm.
It's not that like, I want your period to be controlling over
Right.
your life. But like I said, when you're in your ovulatory phase, you feel really great and you're making plans with your girlfriends. And then all of a sudden you have this party you're going to and you're on day 3 of your period and going out sounds like the worst thing ever. You
Yeah.
could have prevented that.
Right.
So it's just forward thinking and giving yourself grace throughout that time.
Got it. So women who are on regular cycles, this is easier for, let's say
Yeah.
somebody has an irregular cycle
Mhm.
and sometimes it's 36 days and some days times it's 28 days. Like when should that happen? Should their cycles be changing that much? Not. What are your thoughts on that? And then yeah, how to kind of plan around that.
Yeah. So first off, it doesn't matter if your cycle is between 25 and 35 days. That's like a good time to have a cycle length, but you want to be consistent for you.
Okay.
So if you're 25 and then 32 and then 28 and so forth, and it keeps on bouncing around more than like a day or two,
Okay.
then that's a sign of some sort of hormonal imbalance.
And what is normal? A day or two difference? Is
Yeah.
it?
So
Okay.
if you bounce between 24 and 25,
Yeah.
that's okay. Or 31, 32, like that's okay.
Yeah.
But if it's more than 2 days every cycle, you never really know when it's coming, then that's a sign that something's going on. And so when that does happen and you're like, how do I cycle sync with this? What I do is I teach all of my clients how to track their ovulation.
Okay.
And that is what determines when you're going to have your period. So what's happening to women who are having different cycle lengths
Hmm.
is their ovulation is not being consistent.
Right.
And that's typically because their body is being stressed
Right.
and something's going on to say, hey, let's put this on pause. We're going through a time right now. And then we're going to ovulate in a few days. And so tracking your ovulation is what's going to be most important. And that's how you're going to distinguish what phase you're in, where you're at in your cycle. And that's what we should be focusing on.
Got it. And how are you having them track ovulation?
Yeah.
There's a lot of different methods.
Yeah, there
There's
is.
like pee on the little sticks, and then there's all that
Yeah. So
cervical
there's,
mucus method and body temperature.
so I teach fertility awareness method, which is tracking your temperature. I think that's the most important thing. I think everyone should do it. Tracking your temperature.
Just every day. And where are you taking your
Yeah. So
kind of
yeah, I mean,
cervical
there's
temperature or anything? Like,
it's a whole, I can talk like really dive into it if you will. Basically, it's your basal body temperature.
right.
So it's the lowest attained temperature you get at rest. Soon as you wake up, you
Okay.
take your temperature.
And you're taking,
So
where are you taking temperature?
in your tongue.
In your tongue. Okay.
They also make things like armbands. I love it. So you don't have
Okay.
to worry about it. Do the whole thermometer thing. It's
Yeah.
definitely not the cutest thing ever.
Okay.
But the thing is, you have to make sure you're doing it at the same time every day. If you're taking it with the thermometer, before you wake up, before you talk, drink, anything like
Yeah.
that. So then you plug it into an app and it charts it. And my biggest thing is I want you to understand your own body. I don't want you to rely off of it to understand your cues. The app is going to do its best to guess, but it doesn't know if you were really stressed out.
Got it.
It's not going to predict, oh, you're probably going to be 3 days late. So tracking it along with temperature, cervical mucus, and cervix position.
Okay.
So those all shift throughout ovulation. And I could talk more about it, but
Yeah.
it's a little bit more in depth
Yeah.
if you want.
Yeah. I think we can skip it. I know somebody who did that to like, they planned all their pregnancies
Yeah.
out on
You
it.
can also use it as birth control.
Right. Right.
It
Exactly.
can be the opposite.
They
Yeah.
did that as well. And
Mhm.
probably a good, we're not going to talk about birth control. We might talk about it some other day, but like
Yeah.
there are some natural methods and they can work really well. I think you have to be disciplined, basically, is what it
Yeah.
comes down to, and pay attention.
It becomes second nature though.
Right.
Yeah. It's not as strenuous as most people think at first. When you don't know anything about your body, it can sound intense, but over time it really does become second nature.
Right. And
So-
it worked for you guys. And
yeah.
so let's talk about balancing hormones naturally.
Mhm.
Let's ask about misconceptions first. What are some big misconceptions that people have with that, like cycle syncing, what they think they're
Mm.
supposed to do on their periods versus not different times? What are the kind of things that you run into when people start working with you and they thought, oh, I thought we'd be doing this?
Oh my gosh, I can go in so many different directions. I would say one of the biggest misconceptions is like I said earlier, a lot of people just don't understand that we are not the same every day. So realizing that through giving ourselves grace, we can feel a lot better with our energy fluctuations and whatnot, and that we're not supposed to be the same as all the guys in our life who can just like plow through every single day.
But like the idea of Chinese
Yeah.
medicine, like they, at least what I've heard and
Hmm.
acupuncture, like women are supposed to have a 28-day cycle. And that
Hmm.
it's based on like the lunar, the moon coming and rising. Like,
Hmm.
is that a misconception? Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, so the whole moon thing is actually really interesting. Most women who are synced up and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
got my period,"
Is
as
it a
all these
certain time
other,
on the month?
yeah. So I guess to back up, if you have no cycle and you want to start cycle syncing, you can follow the moon phases.
Oh, interesting.
So you can start, or if you're on birth control as well. So you can assume that with a new moon,
I was
that is,
wondering what it was with the moon.
yeah.
Okay, a new moon is what?
So when you're on your new moon, that is when you're on your menstrual cycle. So that's when
Okay,
you're actively bleeding.
got it.
So you can assume that. And then as the moon is, was it waxing? Right? Wax on?
Waxing is kind of bigger.
Waxing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That is your follicular phase. And then the new moon, or sorry,
Full
the
moon.
full moon is ovulation.
Okay.
So if you hear about like crazy stories of
Right.
nature going wild we can assume that that's when we're ovulating. That's when our energy is the highest, when we're like wanting to reproduce. Whatnot.
Okay.
So you can cycle sync like that as well, which is pretty cool.
And do most women ovulate on the full moon? Is there?
It's really common. Yeah.
Okay, you don't know what percentage or
I don't know the
anything.
percentage,
That's
but
really a thing. I
it
wanted to know because I read something about it. I was like,
yeah.
and then I was trying to figure out if it was more likely. I didn't know when it would be in the cycle. Like,
Hmm.
are they doing it in the full moon so there's light if they're sneaking outside too?
Yeah.
Or are they doing it in the
That's
new
good.
moon because there's no light? I figured it was
Some
one
people
of the
are
two.
switched. Some people are flopped. It's called a white moon cycle when you're ovulating on the full moon. And it's
Okay.
called a red moon cycle when you're ovulating, or sorry, when you have your period on a full moon. So some
Okay.
people are different.
Moon was just a tiny sliver the other night. Very cool. Just in case you are
Yeah.
on your period right now. What are some actionable steps that women can take? Like if their periods are out of control and they're
Mhm.
having trouble.
Okay, I would say first things first, eat breakfast. It's so underrated, and a lot of women are undernourishing themselves. So, eating breakfast and making sure there's protein in that. And more specifically, make sure you're eating breakfast before your morning cup of coffee. This is going to prime your day for balancing your blood sugar, which is absolutely crucial for every single woman.
Does it need to be a big breakfast or somewhat
Probably bigger than
bigger
you
than your like morning
expected.
stomach feels like eating?
Yeah.
Okay.
But as you do it more and more, your body's going to be craving it. So sometimes people come to me and are like, I just don't have an appetite. And it's because
Right.
your body's not used to eating.
Okay.
And your blood sugar is probably pretty dysregulated, which adds stress and so forth. So starting off, you want to be aiming for 30 grams of protein.
Okay.
That sounds like a lot at
How many
first.
eggs would it be if you just
So one egg is like 5
that's
grams.
what I thought. So it'd be like 6
Yeah.
eggs. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, that'd be a
But
lot.
like cottage cheese is really high in protein,
Right.
Greek yogurt, things like that. You don't have to scarf down
Right.
10 eggs.
Yes. Okay.
But I would say that's like number one thing. Second, I would say cut out artificial fragrance. Cut out, it is so damaging to our hormone system. What it does is mimics estrogen. It's called the xenoestrogen.
Right.
And artificial fragrance gets through our skin. It's everywhere. Laundry detergent, perfume,
I was
all
gonna
these
say,
things.
what else? So perfume's the obvious one. Laundry detergent, deodorant. How about soaps and shampoos?
All of it.
Okay.
Yeah. And those
Where
are
do you even
things.
find shampoos without any fragrance?
There are brands out there. I currently use, it's called Rahua.
Okay.
That's a really great brand. Aveda has some without artificial fragrance, or it's like low toxicity.
Yeah.
There's other ones out there I'm blanking on.
So
Because
I guess they don't have to have no fragrance, just no artificial fragrance.
yeah, if it's fragrance with essential oils, that's better. But you're not going to find anything that's completely scentless
Okay.
without making your hair feel like tar.
Okay. Yeah. That's
So,
what I
yeah.
feel like with the natural shampoo and like in conditioners,
Yeah.
especially. I'm like, now it's stickier
Right.
after.
That's kind of half the battle. But
Yeah.
another thing too is throw away the candles. I know that's hard.
Okay.
Stuff like that. Air fresheners,
Right.
plug-in wall things, the Christmas trees dangling from your car mirrors,
Yeah.
all things like that can just go.
So you can have like a scent diffuser. We got one over there. Those are okay. Your
I
own.
would say just be mindful if you feel like you're always constantly smelling and inhaling
Okay.
it, that still can be considered a toxin.
Okay. So even if it's just spruce oil and
Yeah, I mean, depending on the quality as well, there's a lot of essential oils out there that are not super great,
right.
and we don't know how they were made, what really is in
Yeah.
them, and all that stuff.
Are there any there are brands of candles that are safe, right? We'd have to get rid of every candle or we can find some good candles.
You know,
They're just expensive.
I recommend just skipping the candle. If you
Yeah.
like smells, I would say maybe the essential oil diffuser is probably best. But if you like it more for like the mood lighting, beeswax candles are best.
Okay.
They actually provide healthy benefits for you, which is
Oh,
really cool.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So those
It
would be
helps
good.
negate like Wi-Fi needing radiation, which is
Okay.
really interesting.
Interesting. What else? Is there anything else we're missing in terms of artificial fragrances that are a
um, it's even found in things like makeup, which is absolutely bizarre, but there's in pretty much everything.
right?
But think about your household products. Not only does fragrance have an effect, but things like bleach, if we're constantly bleaching things all the
Mhm.
time, that's an endocrine disruptor.
Right.
So in your own home, I recommend just like vinegar and water is really great. Baking soda, vinegar, and a little bit of soap for like laundry is really easy. I've been doing it for years.
Do you make your own like laundry detergent?
Yeah.
How about dishwasher detergent?
Dishwasher,
I need these recipes.
I do Branch Basics for dishwasher.
Oh,
It works great. Because I know a lot of health products have a bad rap of it not being great as
right.
well.
Right.
And I like my
Exactly.
house to be clean. I don't want it to smell gross.
Right.
But I think that's a big misconception is a lot of times we think that clean equals fragrance,
Right.
and that's not necessarily the truth. Clean should just equal like no smell,
Right.
not
Okay.
stinky, not fragrance.
Yeah.
So,
When do you use hormone testing?
so,
Women, and what do you do? What does that entail?
so hormone testing, I think is somewhat something everyone should do. It's like routine blood work where you want to catch things before things get worse. So I've worked with some clients that don't have any extreme symptoms, but we test their hormones and there's a lot going on.
What hormones are you testing?
So I work with the Dutch test. This is an at-home urine test. What the Dutch test tests is pretty much all sex hormones. So progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, and how they're being metabolized. And that's what separates it from just regular blood work is because we can see how your liver is functioning, how your kidneys are doing, your gut health, and the way your body's actually utilizing it. So then from there, we can get very, very specific. And I give like very personalized recommendations for supplements and so forth.
Okay. So you do supplements
Yeah, but I don't recommend anything until I've seen what the hormone panel says.
and then how often do you have people get tested?
I would say once a year is a good
Okay.
amount. It
And then
is.
how do you vary, right? Because I'm sure women's hormones are going to vary based on where they
Mhm.
are there in their cycle. So you want them at the same place in their cycle each year. Or you just
Yep. So you take it at a very specific time, which is 5 to 7 days after ovulation.
okay.
And that's why it's really important to understand where you're at in your cycle and tracking your ovulation because we have to be measuring progesterone, which is produced after ovulation. But women who don't experience a cycle or ovulation, we don't do this Dutch test because we want those accurate results. And so
Yeah.
that's where blood work is better to just opt for that in the meantime.
Got it.
Mhm. My biggest thing is I don't want women to I don't want to work with women and then feel really overwhelmed. And then we're done working with like together for the 4 months. And then all of a sudden they have no idea what to do. They've been on an extreme diet or all these crazy regimens. So I don't do any of those really extreme things. I want it to work for them.
Hmm.
So we don't focus on calorie counting and all these extreme things. It's about listening to your body and giving it what it needs.
Hmm.
And that's what's really important because I want you to be set up for success into menopause and all those things.
Right.
So, anyways, but with my client, she got pregnant and it was just really special. And it just goes to show how addressing the foundations is really important.
Yeah. How does you mentioned like going into menopause and all that? How does like balancing your cycle and working with that now affect somebody's health for like the long run?
Yeah, it's so important. So, as preteens, we're told that this menstrual cycle thing is going to be horrific. It's going to suck. You're going to have to deal with it for 30
Yeah.
years. And people get their periods and they do experience all these crazy things.
Right. And then they're really glad to lose them. Right.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, throughout this time that we're experiencing all these symptoms that we're told are just normal and that's what we're going to experience,
Right.
those are actually warning signs that something's going on.
Mm.
And then when we're in our menstrual years, we're told that menopause is going to be absolutely horrible.
Right. That too. Yeah.
And
There's
then,
no end in sight.
yeah,
Right.
it's just this whole process is going to suck, is the way society has talked about it for
Right.
years. At least for me, like, in public school system, like that's just how it's talked about
Yeah.
and all that. Anyways, so your body's giving you all these warning signs that, hey, if you have extreme mood swings, if you're missing your period, if you have estrogen dominance, then going and transitioning into menopause will be really tough. So focusing and balancing your hormones now is going to allow for that transition to be beautiful,
Yeah.
because that's how it should be talked about. Women have superpowers and it's so amazing what we go through. And to allow that to happen and be talked about in a graceful way is hopefully where society is going to go to. But that's why it's also really important to work on things now so you have a good transition.
How do you see, do you feel like this is becoming more mainstream? Where do you see women's health going and the,
That it's all just taught right away to young women.
are you going to start teaching in
Maybe
middle school,
one day.
sex ed? Can we-
So wild. But never in a million years would I have expected that. But
Yeah.
honestly, there needs to be that.
Right.
And it's talked about as such a taboo thing. And also men need to know about it too.
Right.
To understand their wives and their coworkers and the people, their moms, and to understand these hormonal
Yeah.
fluctuations and what we're going through.
I think sometimes
Mhm.
they're afraid to, right, kind of call it out. I said something about
Yeah.
one of my friends who postpartum and she said something and she was probably very hormonal. And my husband was like, well, you can say that. I can't say that, And I was
Yeah.
like, I've been through that, postpartum, oh my gosh, off a cliff. And
Yeah, it's intense.
so,
Heard.
but it's hard for men to maybe they'll even understand it, but to are they allowed to give it credit or then are they calling us hormonal? And so I know that it's
And I don't think it has to be talked about in that way per se, but same for women understanding their bodies and what they're going to go through with the 4 phases and anticipating, okay, my energy is going to get lower in a few days. Having husbands or boyfriends or whatever
let them
understand
take
that as
naps.
well.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Susie is going to be a little bit more cranky this week. And
Yeah.
that's understanding that that's coming allows, in my opinion, the relationship to be better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just it being more talked about in society is where I hope to see it go. And I think it's already going in that direction.
Got it. That was my next one, but we'll
Mhm.
ask it anyway. What's one thing that you wish every woman knew about?
Pretty much what I've already said in the sense of you reset every 28 days. Just keeping that in mind, that you're not the same every day.
Right.
Yeah.
And where can people learn more from you, find your
Mhm.
stuff, work with you?
On Instagram, it's McLeary.Ann. And I have a website, so it's AnneMcLeary.com.
It's Anne with an E.
SANNEMCLEARY.com. I do free consult calls. So if you want to just chat about your health, your goals, what you want moving forward. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening. If this conversation sparked questions or you want to go deeper, Anne will be hosting an in-person workshop at Ascent Health and Performance February 3rd, 6 p.m. It's all about understanding your cycle and supporting hormones naturally. We'll link the details in the show notes if you want to join us. Thanks for listening to On The Ascent Health. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you found it helpful, share it with a friend and leave us a review. It helps more people discover the show. The views and opinions shared by guests on this podcast do not necessarily reflect my own or that of Ascent Health and Performance. The information provided is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. Next week on The Ascent Health, I'm joined by EB, an integrative nurse practitioner with Eden Health, Alaska. We're talking about weight resistance, what it actually is, why it happens even when you're exercising and eating well, and why so many women in their 40s and 50s feel stuck. We also break down intermittent fasting as a tool, when it helps, when it backfires, and how to approach it in a way that supports your metabolism instead of stressing your body. Until next time, onwards and upwards.